I've been asked the extent of what all I own that pertains to the Invalid Corps, a unit that started in 1863 in the American Civil War. It was a way of making use of men who had become wounded, injured, or disabled in times of war, and instead of getting their discharge, they were found purpose. So this may be the first role of the Invalid Corps, of the 1st Company, 1st Battalion. It's not done on a proper roster, it's just handwritten. This is a letter talking about the Invalid Corps in a poem form. Over here would be some of the enlistment papers of the Invalid Corps. Some of the surgeon's certificates talking about what had happened to the soldier and what had gone wrong. This one will be a shot wound received. So this is all paperwork. I have over 500 documents that pertain to the Invalid Corps. These here are handwritten letters from officers and soldiers putting the Invalid Corps together. This was signed by Richard Rush, as well as the one below it. Richard Rush was in the 6th Pennsylvania Rush's Lancers, which is a pretty prominent unit. They fought at Gettysburg. Richard Rush himself had left just before Gettysburg. He was the son of Richard Rush I, who was secretary under Presidents Madison and Monroe, and the grandson under Benjamin Rush, who signed the Declaration of Independence. So these are all handwritten documentation that pertains to the Invalid Corps. Again, these are all owned by me, not a museum, not an institution, not a nonprofit. This is a private collection. Over here would be documentation produced by the military as a fill-in-the-blank. So this would be an absentee vote for the presidential election for soldiers in Ohio, Mercer County, who were at war when the election took place. And again, these are all government documents as fill-in-the-blank. Over here, we have soldiers' sutler receipts. Number 272 and 274. I'd love to have 273. But these are out of Maryland. These are soldiers' pay stubs, making their healthy $18. These are letters to and from soldiers of the Invalid Corps by people at home, people who had witnessed what they'd done. This is a letter out of New York of a civilian talking about the Invalid Corps and what all they saw in detail and how the program worked. That's all envelopes and letters to and from the Invalid Corps, which was later known as the Veteran Reserve Corps. Over here we have musters and rosters, so names of hundreds of men on each paper. There was over 30,000 men that served in the Invalid Corps, again later called the Veteran Reserve Corps. So just hundreds of names of soldiers. One of the rosters I own is right here. It was done by Benjamin Sweet, who was in charge of Camp Douglas, which was a prisoner of war camp. I have numerous items from Camp Douglas. Over here would be camp passes for soldiers that wanted to go out for the night or had business to attend to, so they had to move on. Shelburne Barracks, that was in Washington, D.C. Over here is one of 2 medals, pins known. The other one is owned by the Army Museum. This is the only one in private hands that we know of. This is a Bible in German from 1862. And the soldier, instead of writing Invalid Corps, wrote Invalid Corpse, as in dead body. And these are files of individual soldiers that when I got all their paperwork, I just kept it all together. Over here would be charges, handwritten charges against soldiers for being drunken, disorderly, for stealing, conduct prejudicial to good, military discipline. So again, these are all men who got in trouble. There's a whole stack, about 30 in there. Over here would be discharges from the men, talking about when they came and when they went. This is the soldier's original discharge, saying that he was discharged on disability, and then I have his second discharge when they let him back in the military to fight again, and he was discharged from the Veteran Reserve. So again, soldier's discharge. This is post-war. They put out a book talking about officers, where they came from, what their disability was, and it's actually missing a lot of names because I have the soldiers and they're not listed in there. This is post-war, trying to get an application, the Grand Army of the Republic, the GAR, people trying to get pensions. This is a ribbon. And the 1st Infantry, which is the oldest infantry unit in American history, teamed up with the Veteran Reserve after the American Civil War. So again, more letters. Newspapers. I like to go straight to the source. It's the Army Navy Gazette, Army Navy Journal. This one here talks about the battle at Washington, D.C. that the Invalid Corps got involved in. And the Invalid Corps was known for wearing a sky blue uniform, not a standard dark blue. So right here you can see the officers in difference with the dark blue to the sky blue. He's an invalid as well, but later in the war they were allowed to wear the dark blue coat instead of just the sky blue. And the enlistees look like that. And so these are all images of soldiers that I own. There's a whole case of them right there. And right here would be a photo album from Camp Douglas, a prisoner of war camp that was managed by the Union. And each man here is named. And that's, oh, not yet. And that's Benjamin Sweet, who manned the camp. It just goes on. This is the chaplain. Over here is a photo from them showing the invalids who guarded Abraham Lincoln's coffin after the assassination. Back to the beginning. Again, General Order 105 started the Invalid Corps. That would be right here. And here is just pages of general orders. Right here would be the men being sent to the Invalid Corps, rules and regulations to the Invalid Corps, and it just goes on and on and on. Again, hundreds and hundreds and thousands of names that just go on. And then as you move on past the general orders, which I believe I have 100 of them, to the Invalid Corps, you start getting to special orders, which was men that were doing special assignments, special duties during the war. So it wasn't for the whole military to know, it was just for that area to know what was going on and why it was going on. And then there is a soldier's certificate, soldier's memorial to Company A, 21st Regiment, Veteran Reserve Corps. This is the only soldier's memorial to a Veteran Reserve or Invalid Corps that we know of. Not in great shape, but it still exists. Again, this is mine. Privately owned. This is my collection. This is my baby. This is what I've been researching and doing all my work on. And what you're looking at here is about 18 years of work, and I'm beyond proud. I have more papers, more documents that are in frames and other forms of preservation that I didn't want to bring out, but just to give you an idea, like I said, I have about 500 pieces, and there's other relics and stuff that aren't shown. There's my collection. I hope you get a better idea of what I do.